In part 3 of Chemistry of the Atmosphere, we look at pollution and carbon footprint. We need to make sure that we have a definition for carbon footprint and we understand the different types of pollution. The carbon footprint is defined as the total amount of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases that are emitted over the full cycle of a product or an event. So for example, on this slide we've got the plastic bag. So it looks at the steps in the life cycle of the plastic bag and also therefore the things that increase its carbon footprint. If you were talking about an event, it would be something like a holiday, which I'm sure we'd all love to go on at the moment. If we went on an aeroplane, that would increase the carbon footprint. Driving the car to the airport, driving a car on the other side when you are away, all of those things increase the carbon footprint. There are, however, lots of different ways in which we can reduce the carbon footprint. Some of them are for individuals, such as personal choice, so cycling, walking, increasing the amount that we recycle, better insulation of our homes so that we need to use less energy to heat them. There are, however, some that are more limited to companies and to governments, things like offsetting with renewable energy and carbon capture, which captures the carbon dioxide and therefore reduces the amount that goes into the atmosphere. There are lots of different factors that limit these options. So for example, you may enjoy cycling, however if you need to travel a very long distance, cycling isn't a practical method. Or if you have to transport other people, you would need to go in a car or on a bus. Increasing in recycling is down to local authorities, so do you have the ability to recycle all of the objects? So for example in Hampshire we can't recycle Tetra Paks at the moment, and so therefore although we'd like to recycle them we can't, and that increases our carbon footprint. Pollution comes in three main forms: carbon dioxide, water vapour and carbon monoxide, so things like the greenhouse gases, sulphur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide, and finally particulates. So carbon dioxide, water vapour and carbon monoxide are all caused by burning fossil fuels. If the fossil fuel isn't burned completely, it will produce carbon monoxide, and carbon monoxide is an odourless and colourless gas that can cause issues in terms of respiratory problems. Sulphur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide cause acid rain, which damage trees and buildings, and they can cause problems in humans as well. Particulates are the unburnt part. We often refer to it as soot, and that's the black layer that gets left over things, and that causes global dimming. There was a lot of talk about this when the Olympic Games were in Tokyo, and the fact they talked about the limit to the vision, and that was the particulates in the air that caused the global dimming. These next few slides look at the equations that you need for burning. You will need these to complete the worksheet that you've been given. So methane plus oxygen gives you carbon dioxide and water. However, if you limit the amount of oxygen, it will make carbon monoxide and water instead. For the production of acid rain, the fuels would have impurities in them, so things like sulphur and nitrogen. So if the fuel contained sulphur, it would burn with the oxygen as well and form sulphur dioxide. And as you learned earlier, it then goes up into the atmosphere and creates acid rain. Nitrogen can also be found in fuels, and that again reacts with the oxygen, and it tends to make nitrogen monoxide. And that nitrogen monoxide then can react further with the oxygen to form nitrogen dioxide. both of these are causing acid rain. As we've said, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen monoxide and nitrogen dioxide all dissolve in water, and the problem with that is it then causes acid rain because they go up into the atmosphere and dissolve in the water that can be found in the clouds. Incomplete combustion is where something burns without enough oxygen, and when it does that, instead of forming carbon dioxide, which is carbon with 2 oxygens, it forms carbon monoxide, which is carbon with 1 oxygen. But it also then produces carbon, which is also known as soot, and this is the particulate matter that we talked about earlier that causes global dimming. Carbon monoxide, you need to really understand why carbon monoxide is dangerous. So carbon monoxide is a toxic gas that is colourless and odourless, so you can't see it and you can't smell it. The carbon monoxide bonds to your red blood cells, to the haemoglobin, instead of the oxygen, and so this then travels around your body. And what this means is that instead of getting oxygen, your cells get carbon monoxide, which they can't use, and so respiration doesn't occur. So ultimately, carbon monoxide poisoning can kill you. There are lots of factors that affect carbon monoxide poisoning, and they include your size, the amount of carbon monoxide you breathe in, and how long you've been breathing it in for. There have been some cases. There is one in a holiday home, and there is also one more recently with a girl in the New Forest where they put a barbecue into the tent. So if you want to have a look at those, you can just Google and have a look and see in more detail about the issues that carbon monoxide poisoning causes.